Hello everyone, I'm Xiao. On the neon-lit streets of Shanghai, there is a single girl who is always in a hurry to catch up with time, filling every day with a fast pace. However, an unexpected trip to Taiwan has subtly changed her lifestyle. She met a bowl of beef noodles that needed to wait for a long time, an old couple full of waiting stories, and a note that said time is the best seasoning. These fragments slowly penetrated into her memory. Next, I will use the first person to take you into the girl's experience in Taiwan. I grew up in Shanghai and know the rhythm of this city well. Every morning, I squeeze into the subway and catch the bus, urge takeout at noon, grab red envelopes and order supper at night. Such days are busy. I still remember when I first started working, there was a tea restaurant downstairs from the company. It was crowded every time it was dinner time. The waiters shuttled with trays and shouted to go. Herbal tea, ordering extras, fried noodles. Everyone seemed to be racing against time. Sometimes the lunch break was only 40 minutes, so my colleagues and I took out food and finished the battle on the desk. This fast-forward life is very common in Shanghai. It was not until I went to Taiwan that I began to waver in this lifestyle. Coincidentally, it was October at that time, which happened to be the most comfortable season in Taipei. On the first night, my best IE and I dragged our suitcases to a beef noodle restaurant that was said to be very famous. The store was not big, and there was already a long line at the door. I was wondering how long I would have to wait. Just as I was about to turn around and leave, my best IE pulled me and said, "Come on, since we are here, just wait and see." When I was queuing, I felt something was wrong. The people around me didn't seem to be in a hurry. Some were chatting, some were browsing their phones, and some simply brought folding stools to sit and read books. When it was our turn, 40 minutes had passed. I kept muttering in my heart, how delicious can this noodle be? After entering the store, I waited for more than 20 minutes before the dishes were served. I could hardly sit still. But strangely, the diners at the next table were not in a hurry at all. A young couple was studying the menu. The girl said excitedly, "Hey, do you know that the beef in this restaurant is freshly cut from warm-bodied cattle and the soup has to be boiled for 8 hours?" The boy nodded while listening and even checked the history of this restaurant on his mobile phone. Listening to their conversation, I suddenly felt like a reckless tourist. This is not waiting for noodles, but waiting for our craftsmanship and feelings that have been passed down for decades. When the bowl of noodles was served, the soup was clear. The beef slices were as thin as cicada wings, and the noodles were just the right strength. The boss stood in the open kitchen, concentrating on cooking each bowl of noodles, completely ignoring the voice of urging orders. I finally understood why I had to wait so long, because each bowl of noodles was cooked by the boss himself, and no carelessness was allowed. The next day, we went to a breakfast shop, which is said to be the favorite of locals and opens before dawn. We arrived at more than 6 o'clock, but there were still several tables of people waiting in front of us. To my surprise, everyone was smiling and had no complaints at all. The boss lady was the only one busy in the store. She fried eggs and toasted bread at a leisurely pace, but each time was very precise. While waiting for a table, I met an old Taiwanese couple. Seeing that I was fidgeting, the grandmother smiled and said to me, "Don't be impatient, little girl. Good things have to wait." She took out an album from her bag, which was full of photos of them eating delicious food all over the world over the years. What touched me most was that the waiting time and the mood at the time were written behind each photo. This is the kaisei cuisine that I waited for 2 hours in Kyoto. This is the croissant that I craved for 3 hours in Paris. And this is the hainanese, eat chicken rice that I waited for 19 minutes in Singapore. The photos are yellowed, but the stories are timeless. The grandfather said that when they were young, they were as impatient as me and thought that time is money. Later, I slowly discovered that the real delicacy is not about how quickly it is served, but about the process of careful preparation. Look at those famous restaurants, which one doesn't have to wait for a long time. But it is this kind of waiting that makes us know how to cherish the beauty in front of us. Before leaving, the old man specially wrote me a note saying that time is the best seasoning. I've kept this note in my wallet, and every time I see it, I will think of the heartwarming time that morning. In Taichung, I encountered another thing that touched me. It was a very ordinary noodle stall. The stall owner was an aunt in her 60s. I lined up behind an old lady with a cane. Seeing that she was struggling to walk, I wondered whether I should let her go. Unexpectedly, the aunt waved at us and said, "May, use it first, I'll prepare it for you." It turned out that the old lady was a regular customer of the store. She would come to eat a bowl of noodles every week. Although she was not mobile, she never complained. While waiting, the stall owner chatted with the old lady while cooking noodles, asking her how her grandson did, and he examined whether her knees still hurt. When the noodles were served, a portion of homemade ginger juice was specially added, saying that it could warm the body. The old lady took the bowl, her eyes were red, and she kept saying thank you. This scene made me suddenly understand that waiting is not just for a bite of food, but also for this human touch. In Tainan, I was deeply moved by an old local restaurant. It was a small restaurant by an old couple, hidden deep in the alley. If it weren't for a local friend who led the way, I would never have found it. There were only 5 tables in the restaurant, and there were yellowed family photos and a few old photos hanging on the wall. I thought it was exaggerated when I heard that I had to make an appointment 3 days in advance, but I didn't understand why until I saw it with my own eyes. We arrived at the restaurant at 11 o'clock that day. The proprietor said while cleaning the tableware, "Girls, please sit down first." The boss was still picking ingredients at the vegetable market. After waiting for about half an hour, I saw an old grandfather with white hair riding a tricycle back with a basket full of fresh vegetables. It turned out that he had to go to the market every day to carefully select the freshest ingredients for his guests. The old grandfather went into the kitchen and started busying himself, while the proprietor was busy outside. I noticed that she poured hot tea for each table and served a stack of homemade side dishes. While waiting for the dishes, he would come from time to ask if the teen needed more water and chat about everything. He told the story of this restaurant, saying that his father-in-law opened it 40 years ago. Now the old couple insists on only serving 20 tables a day to ensure quality. What touched me most was that he remembered the taste of every old customer. The old lady at this table can't eat too salty, and the lady over there wants more green onions. This gentleman likes it spicy. Every detail is remembered clearly. I asked him how he remembered it so clearly, and he smiled and said that these customers grew up watching our store, and they are like family. While waiting, I met a university professor in Taiwan. He said that he started coming to this store when he was a student, and now he comes once a month. Did you know? He pointed to the photos on the wall and said that these were taken by the boss for regular customers. Look at the wedding photo. That is the first couple of diners in their family. Now the grandson is in college. Listening to these stories, I suddenly felt that this is not waiting for food, but clearly waiting for a human touch that has been accumulated for decades. There is a vegetarian restaurant in Taiwan that also left a deep impression on me. The proprietor used to be a painter. The decoration of the restaurant is very artistic, and the walls are full of her works. While waiting for the dishes, I watched her busy in the open kitchen, and each dish was like creating a painting. She said that food, like art, requires patience and concentration. Don't rush. We waited for nearly an hour before the dishes were served that day, but strangely, I didn't find it hard at all. There was soft classical music in the restaurant, sunlight poured in from the floor-to-ceiling windows, and the guests next to me whispered. This atmosphere made people relax unconsciously, as if time had slowed down. When the first dish was served, I was shocked by the beauty in front of me. A green leaf was set against the colorful ingredients, and each side dish was carefully arranged on the plate like an ink painting. The most impressive thing was that one day, when it was drizzling, we went to a braised meat restaurant. There was a long line in front of the store. The rain was getting heavier and heavier. The boss took out more than a dozen umbrellas without saying a word for everyone to use in turn. The people waiting consciously passed the umbrellas to each other, and whoever ran out of umbrellas passed them to the next one. This warmth scene is really rare in big cities. I have also encountered some particularly heartwarming little things. Once in a breakfast shop, I saw a young couple with a child. The child was about 3 or 4 years old and was a little impatient waiting. The boss lady took out a picture book for the child to read and taught her to fold a paper airplane. Later, I learned that she had prepared a box of toys and books specifically to prevent the waiting children from getting bored. On the last day, I went to a tea restaurant. When I ordered, the waiter asked me very carefully if I was alone, and then recommended a meal suitable for a single person. While waiting for the meal, he also gave me a magazine and said, "Miss, take your time to read it. Don't be anxious." This kind of thoughtful service made me feel full of warmth. After returning to Shanghai, I began to change my lifestyle. I no longer urged the dishes at every turn, and I no longer got impatient for waiting for a few minutes. Gradually, I found that life can actually be more leisurely. Now, when I have dinner with friends, I would recommend everyone to choose those old restaurants that require waiting. Chatting while waiting has become the most precious time. Sometimes I think that maybe Taiwanese people understand a truth that we all forget. Life is not a race, but a process of tasting. Waiting is not a waste of time, but a space for good opportunities to come. Those times worth waiting for often leave the deepest traces in memory. Now, every time I open my wallet and see the note that says time is the best seasoning, I will think of every bit of Taiwan. Those warm smiles, delicate services, and strong human touch all make me understand a truth. Sometimes slowing down can make us go further. By the way, I recently encountered another heartwarming thing. A new noodle shop opened downstairs. The boss is a Taiwanese. He insists on limited supply every day. Even if there are many customers, he will not sacrifice quality for making money. Although you have to wait, you can feel his persistence in food. Gradually, this place has become a good place for neighbors to chat. Watching them slowly savor the food and savor life carefully, I was thinking, maybe this is the best way to live. After returning from this trip to Taiwan, I often think alone late at night. I remember working overtime until very late, walking on Highway Road, looking at the neon-lit street scene. I suddenly felt an inexplicable loss. The lifestyle that I once took for granted now makes me feel a little empty. Think about it. In the city of Shanghai, are we too used to buying time with money? The expedited fees on food delivery apps, the priority waiting fees in restaurants, and even hot pot restaurants have launched an dedicated cooking service. This quick success attitude has made us lose a lot of moments that we should cherish. Once I went to a popular restaurant near my company for lunch and saw a customer complaining because he waited for 15 minutes and finally angrily asked for a refund. The waiter kept apologizing, but was still scolded. At that moment, I suddenly felt a little sad for our city. We always say that Shanghai is an international metropolis, but the attitude towards food and service seems so impetuous. There are too many restaurants in Shanghai now, and operators are pursuing table turnover rates, wishing to turn over tables 3 or 4 times in an hour. Some restaurants even blatantly write on the menu that the dining time is recommended to be controlled within 45 minutes. How many old skills can such a food culture pass on, and how many good memories can it retain? What makes me even more emotional is that the old shops that were once missed are now gradually changing under the influence of the fast pace. I remember that Nanshi Angjiao Long Bao that I often went to when I was a child has now started to use a call number machine, and the staff kept shouting, "Please hurry up and Those delicacies that should have been savored slowly have been turned into fast-moving consumer goods by time. I began to reflect on whether we have lost the wisdom of slowness while pursuing efficiency. Are those stories that were missed in order to save a few minutes, and those work that were lost because of anxiety worth it? In Taiwan, waiting is a kind of enjoyment. In Shanghai, waiting has become a burden. This difference may be where we need to reflect. Sometimes I wonder if we can use half of our thoughts on pursuing efficiency to manage human touch. Will it make this city warmer? If we can use the few minutes we save to talk more with the people around us, will it make life more meaningful? Perhaps this is the biggest revelation that my trip to Taiwan has given me. While pursuing efficiency, we must also learn to cherish those seemingly wasted times, because the real waste is not waiting for a few more minutes, but losing the ability to feel life in a hurry. That's all for today's video. If you think what I said is interesting, please like and follow me. Your support is my biggest motivation to continue updating. Thank you.